If I were to ask you to describe your music taste, what would you say? How much of it do you owe to your friends and family? Would you say it's popular or is it more niche? Do you even know what music you like? Furthermore, do you think you could predict with precise accuracy when and how you will find new music you like and who or where it will be from? No, that would be impossible, right? Today, I set out to answer this question. In an attempt to find new music I enjoy, I want to analyze my favorites to find out what they have in common, research my sources to determine how I found out about these songs, and eventually, with a little bit of luck, okay, probably a lot of luck, I may just be able to predict where my music taste will go, and more concretely, when I will add new songs to my playlist. What playlist, you might ask? This playlist on Spotify, Marcus Legacies. I started this playlist on September 23rd, 2022, because I was fed up with just listening to what I most recently downloaded all the time. So now I know what you're thinking. You gonna compile all the data for these songs by hand? No. There's this great website called Exportify that lets you turn your Spotify playlist into data, and then you can just paste that into this program and it gives you the data in nice graphs. And look at that. Now we could take a look at each important graph individually to pick out any interesting findings. Don't worry, I'll go through these pretty fast. Easiest to look at first is popularity. We can see that it's pretty mixed overall, with the average being right in the middle at 48%. I don't know why popularity is measured in percentages, don't ask me, I didn't make the graph. But overall, no major breakthroughs yet. Next graph measures how many songs I have from each artist on my playlist. This is a cool one because we can see that most artists only show up once on my playlist, meaning I just have a single song from them. This makes sense because I'm really stingy with what I add to this playlist. Now, who are the most popular artists on this playlist? Here's this graph. I have a few artists I probably need to introduce to you. Creo makes great EDM music, C418 makes the Minecraft soundtrack, Bob Moses, our dance pop duo from Vancouver, and Lifeform and Janice Kwan made the Tunic soundtrack, which I adore. You probably know the other big ones. Next is tempo. This one doesn't really tell us much. Most pop songs are between 100 and 140 BPM, and we land right in the middle once again. Although supposedly music is getting faster, so maybe that will help our findings. Lastly is songs per year, and we can see that I really prefer music that was made in my lifetime, specifically in the last 10 years. I also seem to have lost the genre graph somewhere. It was really boring anyways. All you need to know is that hip hop is on top pretty convincingly. So now that we have all this data and we've analyzed the results, where do we go from here? How do we use this to predict where my music taste will go? The first question I want to ask myself is, how do I use music? It's easy to simply ask, when do I hear music during the day? But not all music heard has equal influence. If I hear some generic Mexican music in a taco place, it will not leave as much of a lasting impact on me as opposed to seeing Ludwig Göransson's beautiful score for Oppenheimer in theaters. Therefore, when I choose to listen to music, because I'm listening much more closely and I'm interested in what I'm hearing, I am more likely to add that to my playlist. This is significant because that's the only concrete output we'll get for this experiment. Unfortunately, unlike music taste, a playlist is a very binary system. It's either I like a song enough to add it, or I don't. So I don't. For this reason, even if I don't mind a song, if I don't like it enough to add it to my playlist, then it doesn't count towards the results. This is something to keep in mind. Now back to the question of how I use music. This ties in with the idea of genres. I'm not going to listen to rock music while trying to fall asleep, and I'm not going to listen to smooth jazz while I'm popping bottles with the boys! In terms of how I use the playlist, I see three main modes it has: transportation, studying or working, and sleeping. Transportation is the most straightforward. If I need something to listen to, I just hit shuffle, and that's it. This one can be the most jarring because of the vast catalog of songs on here, but it doesn't really matter what I hear, so long as I hear something. Next is studying or working, where the tempo again doesn't matter. But for this one, if I'm doing anything involving reading or writing words, I prefer to listen to music that doesn't have lyrics, which probably cuts out the majority of possible songs I could listen to. Lastly is sleeping. This one is the most complicated to define, but in essence, I like to fall asleep to calming music, obviously. But calm is subjective. On some nights, indie rock or EDM is calm enough to fall asleep to. One thing I didn't bring up that impacts the weight of each mode is not only how often I listen with that mode, but for how long. To fall asleep, I usually only need 30 minutes of music maximum. If I'm studying or working, on the other hand, those sessions usually last much longer, at least 2 to 3 hours. Transportation usually falls somewhere in the middle. The last and definitely most important thing to ask myself is, where do I get my music from? While I obviously have the possibility of hearing something I like anywhere, anytime, I've narrowed it down to 5 major currently active sources: video games, my dad, Jake, my brother, and social media/pop culture. Social media or pop culture is the most self-explanatory. There's always a chance that I might just choose of my own will to check out whatever's new or popular. Same thing goes for getting recommended music on YouTube or hearing a cool song in an Instagram or YouTube video. Next is my dad, who tends to be a wild card, which makes sense because he's always listening to new alternative music, the genre that's just songs that are weird. The biggest wildcard source is definitely my talented musical friend Jake, who has a playlist on Spotify called Good Stuff, which is currently 138 hours long, 4 times longer than mine, with way more variety. He's the guy I go to for super underground picks, but surprisingly, whenever he recommends something, it slaps! Then there's my brother, who keeps me in the loop. If there's an album or song that I should know about, he's likely played it for me. Now there's the big one, video games, which itself can be divided into 2 categories: non-Geometry Dash and
Geometry Dash.
People call it a rhythm platformer game, but it's so much more than that. In the 10 years I've been playing this game,
Oh my
I've seen
God.
genuine, beautiful works of art, and wait, sorry, this video is about music. My bad, I'll save the glazing for later. Because Geometry Dash lets you use pretty much whatever song you want when you're creating a level, I've discovered a lot of great songs and artists by playing levels in the game, and the songs themselves become easily recognizable and memorable because they're tied to the memory of seeing or playing the level that it uses. This is a perfect recipe for helping me remember to put songs I like on my playlist. We could go even deeper and analyze where these sources get their music from, like Jake from his dad and my brother from his friends, but for now this is good enough. Now that we found out where I get my music from and how I listen to music, all that's left to do is extrapolate the data to figure out when and how I find music that is new to me and that I enjoy. The first thing to take note of is me seeking out new music independently. Maybe I like an artist in my playlist and I want to learn more about them, so I choose to listen to one of their albums. It's infrequent, me adding music to my playlist in general is infrequent, but it's still substantial enough to take into account. The 2 main kinds of music I seek out when doing this are either pop culture sensations that make people's eyes pop out when they hear me say, "I haven't heard much of that artist's stuff," or relaxing stuff, usually from video game composers, to help me fall asleep. While the pop culture kind is virtually impossible to predict, I think I can take a shot at the relaxing kind. I heard that I'm not alone in the habit of finding one song you like, then listening to it every moment of your life until you hate it and you have ruined it for yourself. I've done that a lot with relaxing songs by using them to fall asleep for a week or more straight. So chances are, when I run out of relaxing music to listen to, I'll go looking for more. In that case, if there's 35 weeks left in the year, and I go looking for one every week, I'll have 35 new relaxing songs on my playlist by the end of 2024. Okay. Next is to pick one of my sources, Geometry Dash for example. Many creators in Geometry Dash use songs from Newgrounds, so there's a high likelihood that the next top song on Newgrounds will be used in a Geometry Dash level, and that I'll like it when I play it, and I'll add it to my playlist. So all I have to do is stalk the Newgrounds audio page. Well, I'm not really getting music from Geometry Dash, am I? Well, what about Jake? The next time he comes over, or better yet, the next time he goes home to see his family, he'll definitely come back to me with some new music that will just blow me out of the water. Yeah? At Christmas he's gonna come back to Vancouver and tell me about his dad's music taste? Well, surely the next time I call with my brother or my dad, they'll have some new music. But I call them all the time, and they never bring up music over the phone. And you can't really predict social media or pop culture. I think what I've discovered working on this video is that 1. You can't really predict something that you have full control over, and 2. Music taste isn't something that can be quantified. The data can be extrapolated, and music sorting algorithms can do their best to try and guess what you might be interested in. But nobody can truly know what you do and don't like, except for you. My favorite part about working on this project was scrolling through the playlist sorting by date added, and connecting the dots of when I added something to what I was doing during that time, who I was with, how I acted, how I perceived myself. It's cool being able to pinpoint when I saw Tame Impala or Bob Moses live because of a dump of a ton of their songs onto my playlist all at once. Or personal moments like when my brother preached the word of Kid Cudi to me at 2 a.m. while playing Man on the Moon. Or the night I had dinner with Curtis and Jake just a few days before Jake and I left to go to school in Vancouver. I mean, originally I started working on this because I feel I don't listen to as much new music anymore now that I don't have a car to drive. Because that Kia Soul has some incredible fucking acoustics, and the trains here are louder than jet engines. I think what I've identified in this video essay is that it doesn't necessarily matter what music you like, or how you listen to it, or any of that. What makes music special is when we find it, and who we share that moment with. So in that case, I'm okay with waiting. Thanks for watching.